Alright, I've been doing some experimenting this week with encaustic painting, mostly just playing with the wax the last few days. This is what I'm using, a little piece of thin balsa wood just to experiment with. I just have this to lift it up off of what I'm doing. I did some experimenting last night that I didn't like, and as you can see, I don't know if you can see the wax residue on there, I scraped it all off so I could start over. This is just my test. When I start working on some projects that I really want to, like I feel like I have a good handle on it, then I'll work on these bigger panels. I have a series in mind that I'd like to do, but right now I'm just kind of getting the feel of this, and I wanted to show you the setup I have. So this is the wax that I use. I bought this over a year ago at Blick and hadn't used it yet. It's just impasto and modeling wax, handmade traditional encaustic paint. It's purified beeswax and microcrystalline wax. I honestly don't remember how much this cost when I bought it, but I just stuck with the plain, non-colored. It doesn't have any pigment in it for now because, you know, I don't want to invest too much money until I know it's something that I really want to work with. I just used a flat head screwdriver and a hammer to break a piece or two off. And then I'm using a hot plate that I borrowed from my husband and an empty family-sized tuna can. You can see the wax in there. I took a little bit of experimenting with temperatures on this because you want the wax to stay liquid, but you don't want it smoking because some of it can be toxic, some of it, and you don't want it to catch on fire. Beeswax has a little bit higher flash point than things like paraffin, but you just want it to stay liquefied, and plus you don't want to burn yourself. So, and I have a pretty crappy brush, and the reason I say crappy is because once you use a brush for wax, it's a wax brush. You're never going to get that wax out. I was painting with it last night. If you put it back in, it melts, so just stick it back in there. I've read a few things with people saying that you should use natural haired brushes because synthetic will melt, but as you can see, this is a shitty synthetic brush, and I have had no problem with melting, with the bristles melting, so that's no big deal. I also have this razor blade out because it kind of helps to level things off. Just run it across lightly and get the raised area off. And then I have my heat gun because it helps melt the surface back down and kind of make it level. I'll be using this later. So I'm going to play around a bit with this, and I will be back. I got the first layer of this done, and what I did was I put down my wax, a coat of wax, and then I hit it with the heat gun to get the brush marks out of it and make sure that it was still wet and soft. And then I laid a piece of vintage dictionary page that I'd cut out or ripped out on it. I let that dry a little bit, and then I put another coat of wax over the top of it with my brush. And when I let that dry, then I came across this and just scraped back and forth and got some of the ridges out, or the higher points out, which is kind of hard working with balsa wood, this small thin piece, because as you can see, the hot wax, when it dries, it kind of just makes it bow. Now, I'm only using this to practice on, so it's not a practical use for balsa wood, but I just wanted to make sure that you guys knew that in case someone decided to try it on balsa wood, to expect that. Again, this is not something that you would use for a permanent piece of art unless it was adhered to something that would make it stay straight. Anyway, after I scraped the high spots off, I hit it again with the heat gun and let that kind of melt across, and made sure to blow it out evenly across all the edges so it's an even coat of wax. So my next step is going to be to paint some color over this, and then once that dries, I'll put another coat of wax on it. So I will be back when that dries so that you guys can see the process of painting the wax on and then scraping it and blow drying it, or hitting it with the heat gun. Here I put some acrylic paint. I just painted on this with a brush. And then I used burnt sienna and some brown to kind of make the paper look even older. So I'm going to try to do this holding the camera with my left hand and just paint some of this over. And I don't know how well this is going to go. I might actually have to move the thing to the floor, or to the, yeah, I'm going to have to put this just directly on the paper. So you can see, just painting the wax on, kind of an even coat, try to get it, this is the best I can do holding the camera like this, so trust me when I tell you that my applications not doing this are usually a little bit smoother. Hopefully this will go better once I get the heat gun on it. It's also kind of weird to do this looking through the camera. I really need to get a better setup for filming videos, but it's either this or my phone right now. So this is a really just embarrassingly uneven layer, but I wanted to show you what I do to get this a little smoother, and then tomorrow when I finish making video I'll come back and show you scraping it off. So you see, this is going to be a little bit noisy. I just hit it with the heat gun. I'm still taking the skin out, starting to melt. And make sure to get it real even. And this just kind of melts down the high spot. And make sure that I have a good even coat. There's not any clumpy white wax left on, nothing like that. So I will come back later when I'm done doing all of this and show you the next. So I just wanted to show you the process of scraping down. See, I'm taking I'm sorry this is a little bit out of focus, but well, here I am bitching about everybody's out of focus cameras on YouTube and I'm using one. But I just use this razor to kind of scrape down all the high points, so that way when I go back, because there will be little ridges, be careful when you're doing this, I just almost stabbed myself. And I just put that wax right back in my pot so as not to waste any. But see, then it just makes for I'll go over this a little bit better after I'm done doing this. It makes for a better surface to then go over with your heat gun so it's nice and smooth. So I'm going to finish that up and go back over with the heat gun, and then I'll be back when I am doing the painting. I was going to show you painting as it happened, but things got a little out of control. I just scraped some of it off because I made kind of a mistake here. I think from now on I'll probably do an under sketching before I put the wax on so I can see what I'm doing. But this is just an example, and I just kind of quickly did a silly little skull thing. And as you can see, I kind of scratched it up a little bit with some, I have these clay working tools that I use when I'm working with clay, my epoxy resin clay. So I just kind of used some of these little instruments and kind of scratched it up and made some texture and lines and kind of made it look old-ish. So I am just going to, if I can get this to balance on my little weird wooden block, I'm just going to go over this again with wax. I'm actually kind of running low on wax. I probably should have melted some more, but I'm just going to go ahead and, actually I might just take this out of there because this is not going as I thought it would with that. Just paint right over the skull. Ouch. I just got hot wax on my finger. That sucked a little bit. And actually, I should be coming from both sides so there's not just a big fat blob across the bottom. But this is hard to do with, I have a little mini table tripod that I'm trying to do this with, kind of hard to do with the camera between us, or between me and what I'm doing. So it's a little bit sloppier job than I would normally do with the wax application, but since I'm going to go back over it with the heat gun and smooth it out, I don't think it's that big of a deal. So let's just kind of hit it with the heat gun a little bit so you can see, and then I will finish up off camera. Getting to melt this big deposit of wax and blow it off the wood a little bit, but that's the whole idea of going over it, is to even the wax out. So we'll go over everything and do a little painting over the top. I'll be back when I finish that. This has a couple more layers on it. So I went over the skull with the wax as I have in previous steps, and then for the next step I scraped, as you can see, some texture in here, and then I rubbed down black acrylic paint. By the way, I was using acrylic paint when I did that too. I just rubbed black acrylic paint on and then gently rubbed it off and left the smears on, and then put more wax over it. And in true Katie fashion, I was actually a little impatient and I didn't let the paint dry all the way. So as you can see here, what happened is, as I was heating it with the heat gun going over it, it kind of made the wax float away. I don't know, it looks pretty cool for an, you know, it's just an example. But I think this ended up looking really neat. Of course, these are extremely basic techniques because I am just experimenting with this for the first time. But it kind of gives it a neat, old, textured, dimensional look. And I think I will definitely be incorporating some wax into my mixed media pieces in the future. Maybe more collaging with beeswax, or going over sculpture with wax, because I kind of like the fleshy feeling it gives some of the sculpture work. So anyway, that is my first experiment with encaustic painting. So I hope you enjoyed all this.